Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning. I hope you're having a wonderful World Book Day and you are all comfortable in your class with your comfy clothes on, your books, and you're enjoying the activities that you've been doing with your teachers. I'm going to share with you today one of my favorite series of books, and I remember reading this when I was at school too, and it's Mr. Majeika. Okay, and as you can see, I've chosen quite appropriately Mr. Majeika and the School Book Week. And Mr. Majeika is a teacher, but he's not just an ordinary teacher. And there's a boy in the book called Hamish Bigmore, and Hamish Bigmore is not, let's say, one of the most, not one of the better behaved pupils in the class. He sometimes struggles to follow. Instructions, and he also sometimes gets up to a little bit of mischief. And because Mr. Majeika is not an ordinary teacher, Mr. Majeika sometimes doesn't quite deal with him how your teachers might. So in this part of the story, it's not the beginning, Hamish has actually ended up in a book. Let's see what happens. Thomas turned the pages, and sure enough, wherever there were pictures, Hamish was in them. He was dancing hand in hand through the woods with Bluebell and her rabbit friends, helping them to bake fairy cakes and put up Christmas decorations in Bluebell's cottage. He looked absolutely furious at being there. Poor Hamish, laughed Pete. And what about the words? Let's see if he's got into them too. He had. This is how we all love little Bluebell. Now began. Once upon a time, there was a pretty little rabbit called Little Bluebell. She lived in a pretty little house in a pretty little wood, and she had three nice little friends called Little Snowdrop, Little Buttercup, and Little Hamish. I bet he's loving every minute of it, giggled Thomas. Do you think he's in the other Little Bluebell books too? He was. As they turned the pages, there was little Hamish going shopping with little Bluebell and the others, playing at fire engines and postmen and having a little sweet time. Do leave him there, Mr. Majeika, said Pete. You can send his mum and dad the little Bluebell books and they'll know that he's safe. Oh, do, Mr. Majeika, said Thomas. Just for a few days. Mr. Majeika shook his head. I'll have to fetch him out, he said, if I can. He shut his eyes and he muttered some words. The little Bluebell books began to shake and shiver, and from their pages out stepped Hamish Bigmore. And after him skipped little Bluebell, little Snowdrop, and little Buttercup. Wow, gasped Hamish. You'll never guess where I've been. Little Buttercup tugged his hand. Little Hamish, she piped. Come back to Bluebell Wood, because it's time to have fairy tea cakes. She had a voice rather like Penelope Primrose. Naff off, said Hamish. Are we going to have little Bluebell and her friends in class 3? Asked Jody. Wouldn't they be happier in the infants class? I'll try and get them back into the books, said Mr. Majeika. Wait a minute. What's going on? The other books in the library were beginning to shake and shiver themselves, and the other figures were starting to step out from the pages. Oh, gosh, said Thomas. Isn't that Robin Hood? And there's Toad, Mole, Rat, and Badger, said Jody excitedly. From some shelves at the back of the library, where science fiction and fantasy were stored, came Superman, Batman, and the strange creatures from Star Wars, while the nasty smell suggested that Fungus the Bogeyman couldn't be far away. Oh dear, said Mr. Majeika. I seem to have made the spell to release Hamish too strong. Soon the library was packed with peculiar beings, creatures from outer space, and characters from comic books. There was the sound of breaking glass. Watch it, called Jody. Hamish has teamed up with Dennis the Menace, and they've just smashed the window. It's fantastic, Mr. Majeika, said Pete. You ought to ring up the television people and the newspapers. Here's all the famous people from the books in real life. I know, said Mr. Majeika doubtfully, but I think there's going to be trouble pretty soon. Indeed, Captain Hook and several of the pirates from Peter Pan were already climbing out into the playground, intent on some mischief. Mr. Toad was following them, chortling, I spy motor cars outside, poop, poop. Just let me get my hands on them. Ladies and gentlemen and creatures, called out Mr. Majeika, it's been delightful seeing you all, but would you please now go back into your books? And that is where I'm going to leave it for today. If you would like to carry on reading, go to the library and ask the librarians for Mr. Majeika and School Book Week. There are lots of other Mr. Majeika books as well. I love them. I remember them when I was your age, and hopefully you'll enjoy them too. And when you're wandering through our beautiful school libraries today, just watch out because you never know who might be about. Bye for now.